Okay. Welcome to the August 26, 2020 meeting of the Hyde Park Zoning Board of Appeals. Will each member of the board confirm that he is alone or that no one is present that may influence his vote? As you're called, please respond yes or no. The secretary, please poll the board. You're muted, Linda. Unmute yourself, Linda.
Okay. David McNary,
Yes.
James Agrawal,
Yes.
Rich Perkins.
Yes. Rich, you're muted.
I thought I heard him.
You probably heard me. Rich, you're still muted.
Yes.
Brendan Lawler,
Yes.
Herbert Sweet.
Yes. I've confirmed with the zoning board's counsel that tonight's meeting has been convened in accordance with the governor's March 13th, 2020 Executive Order 202.1, which suspends certain provisions of the open meeting law to allow a municipal board to convene a meeting via video conferencing. In accordance with the executive order, the public has been provided with the ability to view tonight's meeting, and a transcript will be provided at a later date. I've done a roll call of the board members, and there is a quorum present for this meeting. I've also confirmed with the zoning secretary that this meeting has been duly noticed. We have fulfilled our legal notice requirements by posting notices on the town's bulletin boards and news organizations, etc., and posting notice on the town's agenda center of its website. We'll now commence with the Pledge of Allegiance. Because of audio synchronization, the only person you'll hear will be me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our next meeting will be held on September 23rd, 2020. And may I have a motion to approve the minutes for the July 22nd meeting?
So moved.
David McNary makes the motion. May I have a second?
Second, Brendan Lawler.
Jim Agrawal makes a second. Our first application is Locust on...
Excuse me, Herb.
Yes.
I just wanted to note that you read the typical prelude to our meetings, but in this case, I do want to point out to the public that we've had some difficulties live streaming. They might not be able to view the meeting, but at the YouTube site, we have posted the information for them to call in and listen to the meeting.
Okay. And stand by, everyone. Barbara, is the phone number posted yet? No. It's not on the website.
Number has been posted on YouTube and Facebook.
But it's not on the town website.
If it's at the YouTube, then the people who would have gone there to observe the meeting now know how to observe the meeting.
Now Barbara's at the town at the YouTube site, and she says she doesn't see it. I can double check that if you like.
It's there. Trust me. Continue with the meeting, please.
Okay. In that case, we'll move ahead. Just a moment. Barbara, they tell me the phone number is there, so just look a little harder. Okay. So let's move on to our first application, Locust on the Hudson. Excuse me a moment. I'm going to bring in the applicant in, please, Neil.
Hello.
Yep.
Good evening.
Are you by yourself, Mr. Ballas, or is there someone with you?
Oh, no. My representative, Rod Morrison from LRC, should be on the line. He's actually the one handling everything.
I am here. I can see myself on the screen anyway.
Okay. Okay, this is a variance from section 1084.3 G2 to allow construction within the stream corridor, changing the undisturbed area from 100 feet to 0 feet for construction incursion of the waterfront district. And we do have a representative present. The public hearing was closed on July 22nd, and a written comment was received from Christopher Scholes and Inez Elskop within the post-public hearing closing period. It should be noted that our zoning officer has determined that the ground disturbances are not construction, so that no site plan is required. However, a review of the SWPPP plan by our attorney shows that the pond requiring an area variance is part of an 8.2 acre project on a parcel that is contiguous to a historic site, the Mills Mansion, AKA Statsburg, or the other way around. According to 6NY CRR 617.4, type 1 actions, parentheses 9, and 6NY CRR 617.3, parentheses G, the full EAF is required. On receipt of it, the board can then determine what agencies may be involved and proceed with the application. Do we have any comments from our attorney?
I have reached out to Mr. Morrison about this issue. It appears that there was a misunderstanding about the scope of the project the scope of the project being described in the environmental assessment form. The board is required under seeker to not just look at the area that's affected by this area variance, but the larger project. It does appear that this is a larger project that would make it a type 1 action under seeker, meaning that we would need a full environmental assessment form as opposed to a short form. We've told the applicant this, and I believe that the board would need to wait until we receive that form before they were to move on with this application.
Thanks for that confirmation, Patrick. Do we have any comments from the zoning officer? No? Okay. Any comments from members of the board?
No.
Not
at this time.
Okay, very good. So may I have a motion to table the application until a full EAF has been received?
Motion.
Okay, and Jim Agwell makes the motion, and a second.
Second.
Rich Perkins makes a second. Okay, well,
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question about that?
that's an interesting question. Patrick, being that the public hearing is closed, how do we proceed?
He may ask a question. It's likely that if the facts are as we believe, we will need to hold a second public hearing. Mr. Morrison, if you have a question.
I do. Because of the way we went into this process through the zoning administrator and the town engineer first, this full EAF, is that directed to the ZBA? It is, correct?
Yes, it is. And it appears that there was some miscommunication about what had to be in the EAF. If you wish to reach out to the town, we can ensure that everything is covered this time around.
Okay.
May I ask a question? This is Andre Balazs.
Well, if
Yes, Mr. Balazs.
we've accepted one question, we might as well accept two. Go right ahead.
This is obviously all rather, I'm not a technical person, nor am I a lawyer. And this is a project that started as moving some earth around to create a scenic pond in an open field. It was always visible to my neighbors, Christopher and Inez, who are not more than 200 yards from me right now. And for literally 9 months to a year, there were no comments from them about any complaints. I leaned, the minute we heard from the ZBA, I called Rod, who immediately got in touch with Tad Moss. And as far as I know, from my meeting with members of the ZBA who joined a walkthrough with me and Tad, and me and Rod, this has been considered in one particular fashion, which is what is the remedial steps that are necessary, that are requested by the ZBA. And according to Todd, we don't consider this haven't until now consider this a legal matter. It's been a matter of Rod as the technical professional communicating with Tad Moss as the technical professional representing the town, trying to adhere to what was simply a stop work order. It has now been escalated by virtue of the introduction of a legal letter that
Mr. Balaj, my apologies, but I just want to clarify that the public comment that we received did not contribute to us realizing that we need this form. The board has a statutory obligation to take a more detailed look at certain types of projects. Initially, we thought your project was below a certain threshold and did not require that look. We have since learned that it is above that threshold. So
when if I may ask, since Rod Morrison has been in weekly contact with the ZBA and Tad Moss specifically, when did you learn or come to the conclusion that this was different than what has been the subject of the ZBA board, including Tad Moss and Rod Morrison's hand in glove operation last week? When did this suddenly occur to you?
I appreciate that you have been cooperative with the town and have been trying to get a SWIP, a WSPPP, as Mr. Sweet indicated, approved for your property. As part of that, you had to apply for an area variance, which is why you were here. I reviewed your area variance application, and that application indicated that less than 2.5 acres of land was being disturbed. That is why we did not believe that the threshold had been exceeded. However, when I did look at some of the SWIP documents, which were not submitted directly to this board, we realized that the impact actually is greater. It's because those documents weren't submitted directly to the board that there was this discrepancy, and that is why this is arrived.
Could I ask Rod Morrison, upon whom as a professional I've relied for guidance and assurance that we are in total compliance with everything, could I ask him to address your point specifically?
Well, Patrick, you are, just to be sure, because we are 8 months in, it is fair for us to be a little discouraged because we gave this to the town exactly as it was laid out for us to do. The SWIP was in essence, for lack of another word, a punitive SWIP. The work had been undertaken. It was stopped through the stop work orders. A survey in January measured the amount of disturbance, which we completely correctly reflected on this SWIP document. And even at this point in time, there's not even a half an acre disturbed. So we were, in essence, paying the price for work that was done previously without a permit. Even as late as a week ago, I was saying to Tad, I need to talk to you guys about, because we don't need a SWIP. Everything is matured and germinated. We would like to and need to finish the area of the pond. So they were done separately. It was a separate requirement from Tad and Pete Sotero that we go to the ZBA because the work that he had done violated the 100-foot buffer of the stream. It was an additional measure we had to do, again, punitive, if you will. I don't know a better word to use, to go to the ZBA, and that's exactly how we explained it to everybody there. The SWIP would go into effect and, in essence, not be used except for this area to finish the pond. So it is not a normal application. It is not an application. It is not a SWIP to do 6 or 7 acres or whatever worth of work. It was to recover, I guess, and put in place in arrears a permit that should have been obtained before that amount of work was done. I guess punitive is the word I use as a non-attorney, so forgive me for that. But that's where we came from. We've done exactly as asked. So it is a surprise to have to go backwards. And I honestly have to say, if I were to revise the documents, I couldn't even show that amount of disturbance because it's no longer disturbed. It no longer needs to be touched. So it is like from the beginning, it is backwards. I said to Tad when we first met, I've even said to this board, we didn't know how to put this together because it was in arrears as a result of stop work orders. The purpose of the SWIP, the big advantage of obviously to the town is you have full regulation of whatever he does elsewhere. But the application to the ZBA was always put to us to apply for the area to apply for forgiveness and permitting of the area that remained. And that's exactly what we put forward. Not only the town engineer, but his firm, CPL, the planner, read our EAF, and everyone knew the total area that was under discussion, but the remaining area of work once the land was stabilized was only this area within the buffer. So that's why we did at their direction everything we did over the course of the last 6 months.
Mr. Morrison, I appreciate that you have been trying to comply with everything the town has asked of you. I would not describe the town's measures as punitive. They are retroactive and
better word, thank you.
ensuring that the work you have done and will do is within compliance of all the regulations. It is only as we were preparing documents for this board to make findings on regarding this project and its environmental impacts that we unearthed this discrepancy. And the board is simply required by statute to request a full environmental form in this situation. Our hands are tied. It is a state law.
Well, frankly, we would have done it. We would have done it.
I appreciate that you would have. And I regret that there may have been any miscommunication about what was required. But at this point, I believe that the best path forward is for us to just be in communication about what else is necessary and make sure that the board has all the information that it needs in order to have a proper vote.
May I ask one last question? As the client who's relied on a professional, Rod Morrison from LRC, who has, as you know, been in literally weekly contact with the ZBA and Tad Morrison specifically, am I to draw from this conclusion that enlisting the help of a professional who works hand in glove with the town of Hyde Park and the professionals employed by the town of Hyde Park, we have ended up in a situation where 24 hours before, literally after the last meeting, when there was a unanimous, if temporary or vote to approve it, now you are saying that this is a new legal matter, which would obviously, require me to now enlist legal counsel, and we are now embarked on a debate as to whether the ZBA has been appropriately advised by its counsel as to how to interpret the laws of the town of Hyde Park.
Mr. Balaj, I'm not advising you one way or the other to incorporate your own counsel. This is simply a statutory requirement that one
But-
version of a form versus another version of the form be used so that when the ZBA does come to a vote and choose to approve or disapprove this variance, that vote will have been proper.
But put yourself in the shoes of a citizen in town, a member of the town of Hyde Park, who is instructed by the governance of Hyde Park to conduct certain things and proceeds to hire a professional who proceeds to do precisely exactly what Hyde Park has asked him to do on my behalf.
Mr. Balaj, hi, it's Victoria Polidoro. I'm just going to interrupt for 1 second. I know you guys feel that you've been before the zoning board for a long time, but a lot of that interaction has been with the zoning administrator, Tad Moss, and she is her own department. And so your conversations with Tad Moss were not necessarily conversations that Patrick nor I were privy to. But that being said, we were in the process of preparing documents for the board to vote on when this conflict was unearthed. And so it's our advice to the board that they not proceed until all the T's are crossed and all the I's are dotted, just because, you know, these are all volunteers and we want to make sure that the decision that they make ultimately is supportable. And so I understand your concern, and I'm really sorry that this happened. I wish that I had picked up on it earlier. But at this point, we're just trying to make sure that moving forward, your process is right, so you don't have to go through it again.
Well, look, if I may interpret your comments, just so I make sure that I understand what you're saying. You're saying that Tad Moss is basically acting on her own and not necessarily representative of the ZBA. Secondly, that Rod Morrison, who's a professional interacting with presumably an equal professional, Tad Moss, representing the town of Hyde Park, that these two professionals, not lawyers, have arrived through a series of misinterpretations of the requirements at a conclusion that they mutually agree on, but which now, upon the introduction of a legal letter by someone, has suddenly forced everyone to elevate what was normally a working relationship that has lasted now for over 6 months into a legal reinterpretation of the town ordinances and laws, etc.
I can see why you would think that, but again, I'm just here to tell you that we were working on your documents. We noticed the issue, and so we are here to correct it.
Okay.
People don't like lawyers because once we become involved in things, we have to make sure that things are done correctly. And so again, I understand. I'm very sorry that this happened, and we want to correct it and move forward.
When you say you're very sorry that it happened, what are you sorry about?
I'm sorry that it's causing frustration to you and to the town. And so, you know, I don't think it's healthy to get into this kind of debate. Patrick's already advised you that we need the FEAF. You can disagree, but that's how the board's going to proceed. And we can, you know, continue processing it.
So just so I understand, essentially, you are arriving at the conclusion that this should now be taken out of the hands of the professionals. Let's call them Tad Moss on behalf of Hyde Park and Rod Morrison on behalf of me. And it's now been elevated into a question of whether the professionals employed by Hyde Park interpreted the laws correctly.
You're missing some paperwork. We just need it corrected so we can move forward.
Which paperwork am I missing?
A full environmental assessment form. Rod, can you explain this to him, please?
That would be helpful.
I mean, it's just a matter of you submitting some paperwork so we can process the application correctly.
It would be wonderful if you could explain to Rod, because he is the professional, I'm not, what it is.
Rod,
I do know exactly what the long form EAF is. It's much more detailed and involved. And again, if that had been pointed out to us, we of course would have done that at the time. There was I understand the document that they're looking for.
Rod, how long do you think it would take you to complete that?
I mean, we have a lot of the information probably within a week from now.
Okay.
Well, it's one thing to consider is that without the completion of the process the way it's been laid out by our attorney, it would be subject to challenge by anyone, and things could get a lot worse.
But let me ask you, if Rod does exactly what was just discussed, is that adequate, or are we?
Once the information's submitted, the board will review it. I mean, we have to get the information so that we can review the information and process it. So
I understand, but if Rod submits the information as he just described to you in a week, 10 days, does that put an end to the situation, or does that just begin and escalate something that becomes a legal issue, or does it satisfy?
I'm going to suggest, Rod, that we can have an offline conversation if you want, because again, I wish I had answers to your questions, but right now everything's just conjecture.
Well, and Victoria, and by the way, I appreciate the board's indulgence in this conversation, and I agree we could have this offline, but my question immediately becomes, are we submitting an EAF on the size of the project that it is today?
No.
Or are we still required to do it as if it was Thanksgiving last year?
You're bringing, everyone in town is supposed to be reviewing this project as if it hasn't happened yet, right? I mean, you're getting the benefit of having already constructed it. But we have to review it from its original case to this. So going back to the original.
That's my question. Yep.
Yep.
So yes, I would very much like a meeting as quickly as we can arrange it so we get the scope of this EAF set straight, so we don't go through, potentially a couple sessions of review and expansion.
Mm-hmm.
So from a time perspective, it looks like the information could be completed and delivered to the board, certainly within the next, and ready for a decision within the next 30 days. Is that fair?
I do believe we have to
Rod, do you want to
take a look and see if there's any other agencies that would be involved. Patrick, you might answer that question.
Yes, that would be the next step. That would be part of our review of the EAF. But yes, if we were to receive this by the next meeting, we could start moving forward with this again, and hopefully would not delay this. Hopefully would not delay the board's decision too long.
So may I ask then, just for Rod and I, or Rod really as the professional, I'm just the amateur here and client. Rod, is it absolutely clear what it is, and is everybody clear what it is that Rod will be preparing and will be submitting, say, within 10 days? Rod, do you want to answer that? And it would be helpful.
Yes, it is clear. The document, what they're looking for is clear. What is not clear is the process that they would go under afterwards. Patrick mentioned a potential public hearing. I assume the board would not, and you can answer this, somebody, the board would not have to recirculate for lead agency because they have a new EAF. That's a little fuzzy to me. That changes, obviously, the timeline of the board's ability to act.
Ted, can you answer this? Is the DEC involved because of the SWIP, or is that the town of?
I'm sorry, you broke up.
Oh, I was asking if the DEC would be involved because of the SWIP.
We're going to have to file. Are we doing an amended, a modified SWIP? Is that what we're doing, Rod?
Well, if Victoria is indicating that we wouldn't adjust the amount of disturbance, then the SWIP is essentially what it is right now. My question is definitely about the circulation process. Do you redo that? Do you have to, nullify your lead agency status? That's,
well, this board did. I didn't see that, that this was ever classified in the first place.
No, that this board had not circulated because before
Sure,
now we didn't
right.
believe it was type 1.
And a SWIP is a ministerial, so
Mhm.
It would
when
be
we
the only involved agency would be the zoning board of appeals, so no
Yeah.
circulation needed. So
Right.
that's what I believe. We'd like to see your paperwork just to make sure that that's the case, but to me, that sounds reasonable.
Yeah,
Patrick's in
that's what
charge.
I'm not-
I'm just here to back him up because I knew people would be unhappy.
And because I'm calling in from a different state.
So look, just as a client and relying on Rod as a non-legal counselor, but someone who worked hand in glove with Hyde Park from day one.
Rod's doing great. This is not Rod. This is an error. Errors happen. We're all human. And unfortunately, my office caught it late.
But okay.
And Rod works with the town all the time, and we have full faith in his abilities to provide you with great engineering. This is just a paperwork issue that we need to follow through with.
Okay, so in other words, there's no need to get lawyers involved, and Rod, you're comfortable with Rod?
It's up to you. If you
No,
want a lawyer, that's fine.
No,
I mean, I can't tell you not to, but this is.
No, I have no desire to, and we have deliberately not, and I'm not a lawyer, and, you know, Rod and I, you know, I follow his lead. I just want to be comfortable that you are comfortable with working with Rod, and we get through this.
The board evaluates everyone's work the same, but Rod does come before the town often, and I don't think there's been an issue.
Okay, so in other words, it's fair to summarize that Rod will get to you what you've requested. He knows what it is. I don't, but he does. And he'll get it to you very shortly. And we will be back on track. And this was a miscommunication, essentially. Is that a fair summary?
That is.
Yeah, the application will continue being processed. This was a glitch.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate the conversation, everybody.
Okay, I'm a little bit amiss after that as to where we left off.
Is that a good thing to do, to leave it at any doubt?
I don't think there's
No, I believe we're just confirming the status of the application. My notes indicate that there was a vote to table it until the next meeting so that we could get.
But we are all
these forms in order.
But we're all, let's say, put it this way, to be professional about it. Rod is clear about what he needs to do, and you are in agreement with what Rod is planning to do.
Correct. And Rod and the town will be in communication as we have been, and we'll make sure that this is resolved.
I suggest an offline discussion maybe in the next day or two.
Exactly.
Between
Yes.
parties involved versus this forum.
Yes.
Agreed.
Thank you very much, all of you. Much appreciated.
Appreciate it.
All right, now somebody's got to help me out because I've lost track of where I was before our unofficial conversation here. Had I already asked for a motion to table the application?
No,
I had not. Well,
not that I remember.
okay, well, if I do it twice, that can't hurt, I'm sure. So may I have a motion to table the application until a full EAF has been received?
Motion.
And Jim Agwal makes the motion, and may I have a second? Rich Perkins makes a second. Okay, well, we'll see you guys next month.
Wait a minute, question.
You need to actually vote. You just did the first and the second. So
Sorry.
Hold on, Ted has something.
And Tad has a question?
Yes, I believe we need to continue it to the next meeting. All I heard was until the application is received.
But we've closed the public hearing.
The understanding is that will be to the next meeting, correct, Herbie?
Okay.
Presumably, but
Yes.
Yeah.
how much can we presume what's going to happen in the future?
I think it's safe to table it until the next meeting. Worst case scenario, it'll be the meeting after that, but I'm confident that Rod will present something to the board in the meantime.
All right, at which time we will reopen the public hearing.
Mm,
Hmm.
Let's wait until we let's wait until we know that we have the forms we need.
All
Let's
right.
determine that later.
Would just matter of my own understanding, assume we receive the forms in the form in a reasonable amount of time. Does our secretary have to re-advertise that we're going to be reopening?
Let's resolve this offline. This
All right.
is procedural, and for now, we're just tabling it until the next meeting.
All right, very good. Okay, that's fine.
All right.
Any other comments from
Aye.
anyone?
Aye.
Okay. Yeah. Yes, Brendan. What?
No, aye. We still have to vote.
Well, I've got to change the resolution a little bit.
That's true.
I'm not
That's
saying
true.
until it's fully
That's
EAF
true.
is going to proceed. I'm just going to say I'm asking for a motion to table the application until our next meeting. Until the September, what is it? Let me look it up here.
23rd.
The September meeting is fine.
September 23rd. Okay, and then Brendan's got his hand up first. So Brendan
Make a
gets to
motion.
makes the motion.
I make the motion.
All right, may I have a second?
Jim,
There's Jim. Okay, fine, Jim.
3 seconds.
Okay, 3 seconds. Jim wins the prize tonight. Jim Agwell has seconded the motion. Okay, well, moving along, not so swiftly.
We still need a vote. We had a first and second. Now, if the board could indicate that they voted
Thank
for
you,
or
folks.
against. The
Thank
motion.
you, folks. The secretary, please poll the board on the motion.
Brendan Lawler,
Yes.
Rich Perkins,
Yes.
Dave McNary,
yes,
Jim Agrawal,
Yes.
Herbert Sweet,
Yes,
motion carried.
if not forgetful, yes. Okay, glad you folks are keeping me honest. Our next item on our agenda is Michael Lehan. And this was a determination from section 108-6.5, changing of a non-conforming use. The applicant, Michael Lehan, is seeking a finding from the Zoning Board of Appeals regarding the proposed use of the property for a base of operations associated with a small landscaping business. Is it of similar or lesser impact than the existing non-conforming use of monument display and sale and garage storage in the neighborhood district? The board first needs to make a determination if the new non-conforming use is equal or less non-conforming than the present non-conforming use. A withdrawal letter has been received from Mr. Lehan on July 23rd. May I have a motion to close the public hearing and dismiss the application?
so move.
Mr. McNary's made the motion.
Second.
Mr. Lawler's made the second. And I don't see anybody unhappy with the way I've proceeded, so I'll consider this matter closed.
Are we going to vote?
Oh, we're going to vote. Always forget that part.
Minor detail.
Minor detail. Okay, secretary, please poll the board.
Brendan Lawler,
Yes.
Rich Perkins,
Yes.
Dave McNary,
Yes,
Jim Agrawal,
Yes.
Herbert Sweet.
Yes. I couldn't get along without you folks. Okay, our next application is Sue Macy. Did you bring her into the meeting,
She was not
Mr.
here.
Webmaster?
I would if she was here, but she is not here.
She's not here. I believe we can proceed anyway. This is an application for a variance from section 105-5.15, changing a side yard setback from 5 feet to 2 feet to maximize the usable space in the Hamlet Core District. Now, the public hearing for this application was closed at the July 22nd meeting, and no written comments have been received from the public. Correct me if I misspeak anytime, Linda, or anyone else for that matter. And we have no representative at the moment. So let me ask if there are any comments or questions from the board.
No.
No.
Okay. We don't have to take a vote on that either, huh? So do we have any comments from the attorney?
Not this time.
Thank you. And zoning officer?
Not at this time.
Okay, thank you. We do have a resolution. Mr. Agwal, please read the resolution.
Resolution to grant area variance Macy 12 West Elm Avenue, August 26, 2020. Whereas, now therefore be it resolved that the zoning board of appeals makes the following findings in accordance with section 267B of the town law and Hyde Park zoning law 108.33.6B2 regarding the requesting variance. 1, the requested variance will not produce an undesirable change in character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties. The property contains a one-family dwelling which uses wood as its primary heating source. The requested variance would allow the applicant to place a shed on the property in order to allow for the storage of firewood. The impact on neighbors from the construction of the shed will be minimal, as that portion of the property has previously been used to store firewood, and the shed will not abut a residential property. Prior to the erection of the shed, the applicant covered the firewood with canopies that repeatedly fell apart. The project is replacing those canopies with a permanent structure. Any impact from the project will be a benefit to the neighborhood, as the use of the shed for firewood storage is more aesthetically pleasing than the former arrangement at the property, i.e. exposed wood covered by an oft-deteriorated canopy. Number 2, the benefit sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than an area variance. The applicant could place the shed in a location on the property that is outside of the side yard setback, but doing so would encroach on the property's relatively small yard. Furthermore, the applicant has alleged that the proposed location of the shed is the most convenient place for the storage of firewood based on its proximity to the road and the entrances to the residence. 3, the requested variances may be considered numerically substantial, as the permitted dimensions of the required side yard setback will decrease by 30 feet, which is 60%.
3 feet.
However, as discussed herein, the impacts of the requested variance will not be substantial. 4, the requested variance will not have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the general neighborhood district. The requested variance will allow the construction of shed in a previously cleared and disturbed area. The shed will result in an insignificant amount of ground disturbance and an insignificant increase in impervious surface area at the site, because it will occupy the same area that had previously been used for the firewood storage. Moreover, area variances of this type are presumed not to have a significant impact on the SECRA. Therefore, the requested variance will not have an adverse effect or impact on the environment. 5, the difficulties are self-created. Be it further resolved that the Zoning Board of Appeals hereby grants the requested variance subject to the following condition. 1, payment of all fees and escrow.
Let me make one minor correction. What I heard read that the variance is for, let me find it here, 3 feet, not 30 feet.
I don't think I said 30 feet.
Yeah, I thought I heard you say 30.
No, I don't think so.
All right. So it's 3 feet. Everybody understands that.
Yeah.
Okay, may I have a second to the motion?
Second.
Okay, Dave McNary seconds it. And the secretary, please poll the board.
James Agrawal,
Yes.
Brendan Waller,
Yes.
David McNary,
Yes.
Richard Perkins,
Yes.
Herbert Sweet.
Yes.
Great.
Okay, our next application is Kenneth and Renee Hanneberg, Mr. Peters, the new owner. This is a variance from section 108-5.15, changing the front yard setback from 50 feet to 48 feet, and changing the side yard setback from 20 feet to 6 feet for construction of an attached deck in the neighborhood district. May I have a motion to continue the public hearing from July 22nd?
So move.
And
Second.
Mary moves it, and Mr. Lawler seconds it. Okay, Mr. Peters, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay, would you give us a description of your project?
We put a deck on the side of, behind the garage and the side of the house at the kitchen door.
And it's already in place, is it not?
Yes.
Okay. Let me ask you a question. When you gave us the dimensions for your project, particularly concerned about the side yard setback, did you include the step to the deck in making that calculation?
Yes, I amended it with the step on added on to it.
Okay.
Question, Mr. Peters, I've got a drawing here of your project, and it looks like the deck is 6 feet. Is the garage actually closer to the line, to the property line?
Yes, the garage is closer to the property line.
Okay, so that's already in effect. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
We're looking for a variance for the deck right now. So,
Right.
So the garage is not an issue.
So the variance for the deck is less than what the garage has at this point. The garage is closer to the property line than the deck will be.
That is correct.
Okay.
Okay, so are there any other questions from the board?
No.
Okay. Any questions from our attorney?
No.
Or any questions from our zoning officer? Okay. Do we have any members of the public in the Zoom waiting room that wish to be heard?
No, we do not.
Thank you. Have we received any written comments from anyone in the public that wishes his or her remark to be read? Linda?
No, we have.
Thank you. The public can see the detail of the application by examining the plans, which are online at the town website. That is hydeparkny.us. Go to departments, then to Zoning Board of Appeals, and then to applications. The ZBA will accept public comments following the close of the public hearing to be received by 4 p.m. on September 8th, 2020. They should be sent to ZBA Secretary at 4383 Albany Post Road, Hyde Park, New York, or emailed to zbasec@hydeparkny.us. The board is expecting to have a resolution at the next meeting on September 23rd. May I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion.
Second.
Jim Argall makes the motion. May I have a second?
Second.
Who makes the second?
McNary.
Dave McNary makes the second. Keeping up with this, Linda?
Yes, I am.
Okay, that's good. Now, will the secretary please poll the board?
Oh, boy. Brendan Lawler,
Yes.
Rich Perkins,
Yes.
Dave McNary,
Yes.
Jim Agrawal,
Yep.
Herbert Sweet.
Yes. Now, you see, you give me a little bit of experience, guys, and I remember this voting stuff. Our next applicant is Roy Charter. And want to bring him into the meeting?
Mr. Peters, do you understand the process now, where we are?
Not fully.
Okay.
Mr. Peters, so there was an application. As you know, you ended up taking it over because you were the new owner of the property. Public hearing was just held on that application. No one from the public spoke, but we're allowing the public to submit written comments if they want for the next 10 days. Then the board will take your application and those comments into consideration and will likely vote on whether or not to grant the variance at its next meeting.
All right.
Yeah, just to add to that, Mr. Peters, prior to going in Zoom, when we and everyone in the public had the opportunity to be physically present in the town hall, for residential applications like this, we used to wrap everything up all in one night. But the public has to have an opportunity to comment, whether they want to or not. We have to give them that opportunity in order to meet our legal obligations. And that's why we have to wait another month. And sorry to slow things down, but you know, we're constrained by what the law says to do.
All right, thank you for your time.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Peters.
So is Mr. Charter with us yet?
Yes, he is.
He was earlier.
Still here.
It's dark there now.
Can you hear me? Can you
I
see
can
me?
hear you.
Yes, we can hear you.
All I see is somebody wearing glasses. I presume that's Mr. Charter.
All right, there you go.
Oh, there
All
you go.
right,
There you
now I
go.
can see you.
That's better. Now we can see you a lot better.
All right.
Okay. So this is a variance from section 108-4.4 parentheses 2, changing fence height from 6 feet to 8 feet in the neighborhood district. May I have a motion to resume the public hearing?
So move.
David McNary makes the motion. May I have a second?
Second.
Brendan Loyal seconds, and will the secretary poll the board?
Brendan Lawler,
Yes.
Rich Perkins,
Yes.
Dave McNary,
Yes.
Jim Agrawal, sorry,
Yes.
Herb Sweet.
Yes. She has less trouble with my name than yours, Jim.
So do a lot of people.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, Mr. Charter is present. So to summarize, at the July 22nd ZBA meeting, Mr. Charter told us that he wished to screen the view between his backyard deck and his southern neighbor's backyard deck, which is about 100 feet away, and also from the neighbor's above-ground pool, which is south of the deck and about 150 feet away. There was a tree to the south of his house that provided some screening, but he stated that it was threatening the house and had to be removed. ZBA members have visited the site and observed the existing 64-foot long, 8-foot high fence and the view of the neighbor's deck and pool from Mr. Charter's deck. At the July 22nd meeting, I commented that the board had previously granted variances for 8-foot high fences, but only the minimum necessary for the privacy of the applicants. So, Mr. Charter, do you have anything to add at this point?
Not really, just, I'd like to just have the 2 feet if I could.
Just your happy smiley face, okay?
You know.
Okay.
Cut the top of the post off because
Didn't get that, just a little chopped, but I think I got the gist of it. So do any board members have any comments on this application?
No.
Yes, I do.
Oh, yes, go ahead, Brendan.
So, having visited the site, and thank you, Mr. Charter, for letting us do that, and being able to take a look from the deck, I'm a little bit concerned that, the distance involved and requesting a variance when there are other options. I know that you'd mentioned you didn't like the idea of putting in any kind of vegetation, but vegetation such as large shrubs and so forth are a possibility. So I'm a little bit concerned about granting a variance that adds 2 feet when they're to a fence when there are other options out there. So I just wanted to let everybody know that. Thank you.
Do you have a response on that, Mr. Charter?
You're gonna add vegetation to an already
there's enough trees around the property, and it's just a matter of 2 feet. Not really.
I heard someone else speaking. Who is that?
That's my fiance. We're in the car up the street because the reception's so bad down there. So I've been up the street waiting on the side of the road for the meeting, but we're in the car together and she made a comment. That's all.
Okay. I believe there's a 16-foot distance between the house and the fence. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So if you did put any vegetation in, it would be in that area. And so are you telling the board that you can or cannot put in vegetation? Not that what you would like to do, but what are you able to do?
If we deciding that it's declined, I'm just gonna cut the top of the post off and just keep it at 6.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand that.
Gonna cut the
If
post.
it's declined, if you guys say no and I can't have the 2 feet, I'm just gonna cut the top of the post off and call it. And leave the 6 foot. It is what it is. I asked for variance. It's me and my neighbor who are in total agreement upon it to do it. If you were on my deck and it wasn't fully blossomed with the trees, you would see what I'm talking about as far as we're eye level. And it's just the right thing to do for privacy. And I don't want any more shrubs. I'm trying to get rid of trees. I'm going to keep cutting them away from my house. I'm a firm believer in letting my house breathe. What I'm getting at is if it can be approved, okay. If it can't, then I'll just cut the top of the post off and call it, and leave it at 6.
Okay, we understand all that. The question is the practicality of putting in shrubs is the issue. You told us previously that you did have a tree, it did provide some screening, but for practical purposes, you had to remove it because you told us that it was threatening the house. The question then becomes, would any other type of shrubbery be practical? And that's where we're coming from. We're coming from practicality, and we're required by law to see if there are other alternatives other than granting a variance. So our question to you is it practical or reasonable to put in shrubs that would provide the screening?
I'd rather stay away from shrubs. To be practical, I mean, now you'd be looking at planting something to put on the outside that's just going to grow back onto it. I just cut everything out of there to get rid of all of it. It's moss on my house, fungus on my foundation, moss on my roof. I just would like to keep any trees at least 20 feet away from the house. And in shrubberies or whatever, I'm not a great vegetation person, let's just say. I'd rather keep the trees away from my house. If it's a matter of putting shrubs, I'd just rather not do it.
Okay.
So that is not, so Mr. Charter, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what you're saying is that alternative to put shrubbery in is not an alternative for you.
No, I would not like to do that, sir. No,
Okay.
I just got rid of everything on that side of the house. As I stated, even if it's trees, you're gonna grow above 8 feet eventually, and then I'm right back in the same point where my satellite dish doesn't have any sight. I don't say they're gonna grow that much, but I have enough trees around the house, and I'm just trying to push them all away from my house, from foundation issues to moss and mold. I'm trying to stay away from the vegetation look. That's just, I'm just not into the vegetation.
That's an interesting point. Where is your satellite dish?
It's on the other side, but it still points toward the hill. And the trees themselves keep growing more and more, and it just keeps getting out of whack. But that doesn't have to pertain. This really comes down to having an eye view to my neighbor, to where they have an event every day in that backyard. And it's just so unfair that we have to be on our deck and sit and watch what they're doing over there every day, even though they're the nicest people in the world. But still, our decks are eye level to each other. If you're on my deck and that tree is not blossomed that you guys saw, it's right there. I mean, you look at, we can hear each other talk. It's just, like I stated, it's just eye level, but it is what it is. I wish my deck was on the other side, my driveway side, because then I wouldn't have the issue. Both of our sides of our house are on the south side. Well, mine is south side, his is north. But they're eye level, and you can see everything they do. You can see everything they talk. I just felt it was the right thing to do to give us some privacy. That's all. And if it can't be permitted, then I'm okay with that too. I really am.
Yeah.
But my question is of the satellite dish, and I'm very technically aware of limitations. Matter of fact, I used to have one years ago. So I know very well that it's line of sight between the dish and the satellite, and vegetation of any sort or anything at all is a serious problem. And if by putting in shrubbery, additional shrubbery, that blocked your satellite dish's view of the satellite, that would be a consideration that the board would have to make. So I don't want to put words in your mouth, but tell me about it.
Yeah, but Mr. Sweet, that would not be my satellite dish is on the other side, and really the ones that affect that line of sight would be the back. I'm not going to say that the satellite dish is the issue. It's not. It's just that my deck's on the left side of my house. Their deck is on the right side of their house. We're at eye level on top of a hill, and yeah, it's about 100 feet. But still, if you came back there and they were actually on that back deck and you guys came, you would have seen what I'm talking about. They get 6 little kids. They have their events every day there. And it's just the right thing to do is to try to give yourself a little privacy. So my fiance smokes on the deck every day. And it's just eye level looking at each other. It's dead eye level. It could be 150 feet. We look right at each other. It's like I said, maybe if my deck was on the right side, it wouldn't be as bad because my other neighbor is on the uphill. But it's not even it's not imperative that it happens or nothing like that. I'm not even the one that goes on the deck as much. It's my fiance. So it's like I said, I'm not really into the shrubbery thing. I want to stay away from trees. But it's not to do with the satellite dish, no.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, if I may, it seems clear from what Mr. Charter is saying is that the option for shrubbery is not something that he feels is that will work for him.
Now I understand how he feels that way, and I also understand that shrubbery in the small distance between the fence and the house is a potential problem, considering the shrubbery in the past was, and that's about as far as we can take it at this stage. Does anyone else have any questions?
No.
Okay, well, let's move along then. Do we have any comments from the zoning officer? Any from the attorney?
None, except I appreciate your patience, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
All right, in that case, I think we've flushed this out as much as we're going to be able to. Have we had any public comments received by mail or email?
No, we have not.
And is there anyone in the waiting room who wishes to comment?
No, there is not.
In that case, the public can see the detail of the application by examining the plans, which are online at the town website. That is hydeparkny.us. Go to departments, then to Zoning Board of Appeals, and then to applications. Public comments may be sent, but must be received by September 8th and should be sent to ZBA Secretary at 4383 Albany Post Road, Hyde Park, New York, or emailed to zbasec@hydeparkny.us. Further detail can be found in the legal notice announcing the agenda item. A resolution is expected to be provided at the September 23rd ZBA meeting. Just a heads up, are you still with? Yes, Mr. Charter?
Yes.
Looking at all the squares here in front of us. We ordinarily, if we were meeting in person at the town hall, would be able to provide a resolution this evening for a residential application. But the public legally has to have the right to comment, and they can't. They've heard this, and there may be some comments, may not, but we have to allow for it, legally speaking. And so we give the public a time period to comment, and then with those comments, if there are any, we have a resolution, and our next meeting is at the September 23rd, I believe I said. So that's the process, and we are bound to it. So the zoning board follows a lot of state rules, and that's one of them. So that's the process. So may I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion.
Jim Agwell makes the motion. May I have a second?
Second.
Who said that?
Brendan,
Brendan Lawler makes a second. And may the secretary poll the board.
Brendan Lawler,
Yes.
Rich Perkins,
Yes.
Dave McNary,
yes,
Jim Agrawal,
Yes.
Herb Tweed.
Yes.
Mr. Charter, thank you for your patience. We appreciate what you're trying to accomplish, and we apologize for the delay because of the process, but rest assured we'll be making a decision in the next meeting.
All right, thank you.
Good night.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Okay, good night. So we have a new application from the Enclave. This is a sign, and this is a variance from section 108-24.1 F2B, changing the maximum letter height from 10 inches to 18 inches for the letters T and E. Sounds like Sesame Street, doesn't it? And sections 108-24.1 F2B, changing maximum letter height from 10 inches to 24 inches for the letters H and L for the entrance sign, and all of this is in the Greenbelt District. So do we have a representative for the Enclave present?
Yes, you do.
Mr. Casamento.
How are you, sir?
I'm doing fine. A little bit beleaguered, but I'm doing fine.
He's doing great.
Okay. So, Mr. Casamento, could you give the board a brief description of your application, your project?
Sure. This, I don't know how many of you are aware, this was historically the Meadows at Hyde Park. This subdivision, there was a larger subdivision here years ago that stopped based on the economy at the time and some other factors. Sat for a while. The current owners have revived the project, are going forward. The model home is opening. There's a lot of interest in sales. And the project's name has been the Enclave. It's a reduction in the original size. The original one had 2 entrances. This has only 1. The stone walls that are here are existing and were approved in the previous project. There was a sign on the old stone walls for the Meadows at Hyde Park. I don't and couldn't find any of the original documentation. Maybe Tad has it as to what size the signs were back then, but that's at this point so long ago I don't really remember. But we've worked with the applicant to try and put a sign here that's visible along there to so what people can find it. And when you start to play with the distances, it's about 40 feet from the road. It's a 45-mile-an-hour road, and it comes up rather quickly. So the proportion of the signs, when you look at it with the letters to get it to look right, it bumps the 2 letters over, as you can see. I can show you the application, but I believe you all have it as well. I have it on my screen here. If you wanted me to show it on screen, but
no, that's all right. I mean, we're just looking for a very brief preliminary.
So that's it.
Statement, okay? Because we're going to go into full detail when we go into the public hearing.
Right.
So, and I can see quite clearly that you're not in any meadow right now.
No, this is Canada.
Is the picture we have? I'm looking at 2 pictures with. Is the projection of the Enclave, is that a projection now, or is that in fact already there?
No, it's a projection.
Okay. And is the projection the size that you are asking?
Yes, it is. Correct. It's scaled appropriately on the sides. That's how we work backwards towards it.
Okay.
All right. Anybody else have any brief questions? Because we're going to have to be repeating everything when the public hearing opens.
No.
All right, good. Okay, so any comments from the attorney?
Not at this time.
Okay, our zoning administrator? Okay. So may I have a motion to set the public hearing for September 23rd?
So
Make the motion.
David McNary makes the motion. May I have a second?
Second.
And Brendan Lawler makes a second. And the secretary, please poll the board.
All right, Brendan Lawler,
Yes.
Rich Perkins,
Yes.
Dave McNary,
Yes,
Jim Agrawal,
Yes.
Herb Sweet.
Yes. I'll see you next month.
Sounds good. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank
bye-bye.
you too.
And the final item on our agenda is 13 Curry Lane. And this is a variance from section 1085.15, changing a side yard setback from 25 feet to 3 feet for a new 3-car, 2-story garage on a narrow lot that does not allow for 25-foot setback. And section 108-5.15, changing the front yard setback from 50 feet to 40 feet for an addition to the existing single-family home in the waterfront district. So do we have a representative for this application with us tonight?
Yep, I'm here.
That is Mrs. Tarcio?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So could you give us a very brief description of your application?
Sure. We're looking to build a detached 3-car garage, and then we're looking to do about 150 square foot addition to the existing single family dwelling on the property.
Okay. One thing I'd noticed in what's been submitted already is I did not see a diagram showing the structures and the property lines, which is what we're going to be focused on rather than what's inside the building. So if you could submit that, that would be
there is a variance map. I think we received. I have one in front of me.
Yeah, you should have one. I submitted one with the application.
Okay.
I believe I saw that as well. We can confirm offline.
Okay, fine. We'll get into that on the side. I just have to look a little deeper, I guess. So do we have any comments or questions from the board?
Yes, Ms. Tarcio, is there any reason why you would not put, you have a very narrow lot, obviously, and is there any reason that you wouldn't put the garage behind the house as opposed to on the side of the house?
It's mostly a sight line and an access issue for us, rather than driving behind the house and having a longer garage, or sorry, a longer driveway and creating more maintenance.
Okay.
We're looking to put it to the side instead.
We can get into that level of detail when the public hearing opens, and we'll have to. So no need to get into that at this point, because we'll just be going over it again for the public to hear all the issues. So do we have any comments from the attorney?
Not at this time.
And from the zoning administrator? Okay, may I have a motion to set the public hearing for September 23rd?
So I make a motion.
Brendan makes a motion, and may I have a second?
Jim.
And Jim Agrawal makes a second. And with the secretary poll the board?
Brendan Lawler,
Yes.
Rich Perkins,
Yes.
Dave McNary,
Yes.
Jim Agrawal,
Yes.
Herb Sweet.
Yes. And before I go through the finalities of the meeting, I just something I wanted to say to you all and all of our faithful listeners.
Mr. Chairman, do you want to complete for Ms. Tarcio what will go on next month?
That is a very good point. I usually do that and overlooked it. Mr. Tarcio, next month we'll be conducting a public hearing, which will be noticing the public in the Poughkeepsie Journal. And at which point in time, the formal presentation of the application will be made. And anyone who's interested is invited to participate either by email or by written mail or attending the Zoom meeting. And that is the process that we have to go through. If we come to a conclusion at that point, we depending on what we hear or don't, what we hear, we should be able to provide a resolution at the following meeting after the public's been given the opportunity to comment on what we did at that time. It's a bit lengthy, but we're constrained by legal requirements and also by this Zoom format. This is requiring us to move in as slowly like this. So that's what we're stuck with. So I hope you understand that and have patience with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, so now with that out of the way, I want to get off to a lighter comment. That the other day I saw something that I've never seen before that everyone talks about, and no one has ever actually told me that they'd seen happen. Now, you know what I saw? I saw a chicken cross the road.
Which way was he going? Was he
And
going
on that note,
Why was he crossing the road?
Well, we will save that detail for a public hearing.
all right.
Is there any other business?
I did see a rafter. I've seen two rafters go across the road.
What's a rafter?
Everybody know what a rafter is?
Is that some guy who floats on a raft? I don't know.
Rafter is a bunch of turkeys.
Is that so?
Yes.
Oh, I never knew that. Okay, now that we've finished all of our business, is there any more business?
Yeah, I have a question. And in
Yes.
terms of the process itself, I know we have to delay for 10 days and then the applicants we're basically adding an extra 30 days because of the process. Is there any way that we could have some approval process? I don't know if it's email or other in terms of some of these requests so that we could at least expedite it by at least 15 days for the people?
I don't know how to do that.
Short of setting another meeting, we wouldn't be able to, but we can discuss options offline if you'd like.
Okay.
Okay. Sounds good. So here's the opportunity you all have been waiting so patiently for. May I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? And Jim Agrawal makes the motion. May I have a second?
I second.
Brendan Lawler makes the second. And all in favor, raise their hands and say yes.
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 No.
Okay, is there anyone who would like to stay here and listen to more of my jokes?
No.
Not particularly.
I kind of thought that. The meeting is adjourned.
Have a good night,
Thank you,
everyone.
everybody. Have a good night.
Good